What is going on, guys? What is going on, 27 Squad? Welcome back in to another UDA podcast. This is episode 2 of our UDA podcast, our Undrafted Analysts podcast. Listen, I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I know I'm only my second episode in, but I feel like I've already been doing this for a while now. Partly because it takes a long time to record these, and I'm constantly talking, limited editing in these videos. That's what I love the most. That there's no post editing going on besides a couple jump cuts here and there with when I start, when I end, things like that. And maybe some long pauses I'll try to keep out of there. But those of you guys listening, those of you guys watching, welcome in. Before I start, I do want to talk about some things. I got a hair in my mouth. I do want to talk about some things. A lot of you guys were saying on the comments of my last podcast, if you guys haven't already, check out the first podcast and then come over here and also watch this podcast as well if you guys have that kind of time. But you guys were saying on my comments of my first podcast to put this on Anchor. I think Borden Arrow, a very good video maker. He also makes podcast style videos. If you guys want to check him out, he had a good idea to put it on Anchor. I guess it's an app or a website that it will upload your podcast to just about any site that holds podcasts. You're talking about, Apple, talking about Spotify, all those other, platforms. So I'm going to try that with this podcast to see how it goes. I do want to put my podcast everywhere for everybody could hear it. And, anybody that wants to talk some football, anyone that wants to listen to some football, if they're washing dishes, if they're cleaning their room, if they're doing homework, playing a video game, whatever it is, I tend to do the same exact thing. That's kind of what I wanted to make this. So, just to catch up on what I've been doing lately, I've been working a lot. As you guys know, I'm a postman, I'm a mailman. And, it's a lot better than what Christmas was. I have a lot more time on my hands. Not that much as I would like, but still have some time in my hands to do these kind of videos. I still have my cup here. Those of you guys watching, got my cup. I explained how I got this in my first podcast if you guys want to check that out. And also I have this cool little thing here. It's actually a shell from when I went shooting a couple of days ago. My first time shooting a weapon. And I skipped the pistols, I skipped the baby guns, I went straight for like an M4 SOCOM. I didn't hit any LMGs just because they were kind of expensive, but this is a bullet of a 9mm here. This was fired from a modded Glock. It had a stock and everything. Don't want to talk too much about guns to get demonetized, but I just want to show you guys a nice little show here. This actually landed in my sweater. The next day, I went to work and I was looking for my keys to my truck. And because they're a small key, so I'm looking through my sweater and I pull something cylinder out. I'm like, what is this thing? And I pull it out and it's a shell from when I went shooting. The shells bounced off and went right into my sweater. I just had one of these though. There was, ironically, one shell also was able to slip away into my back. I was shooting an MP40, a military, is a World War II German military gun. And by the way, no recoil on that thing whatsoever. It's like knife through butter. It's just so smooth. But I was firing pretty generously just because I had no recoil. I was just going Rambo on it, and a bunch of shells were flying everywhere. And one actually landed red hot into my back, and it burned me. And I almost dropped the gun because it burned so much. I really can't handle pain, like burning pain. I can't handle a burning pain at all. Can't even handle spicy food that well. So. I'm a chicken when it comes to the burning sensation. So cool little story about that. How it landed in my sweater the next day I found it. But anyway, let's get on to the show. Let's start the show, guys. Do want to talk about the Super Bowl. That's definitely what the majority of this episode is going to be about. It's going to be about the Super Bowl and other storylines along with it. We're gonna start off with the beginning of the Super Bowl, man. The beginning of the Super Bowl just didn't show up. I mean, Fox, like Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, are just a very interesting duo. Joe Buck has no hype in his voice whatsoever. Very boring, unless he like pops up a Red Bull every once in a while. But really is a boring commentator, and I was not excited to see him covering this game. But in the first few minutes, I noticed something. The first few minutes of listening to the Super Bowl, listening to the commentary, there were a bunch of mistakes by both of these guys, and this is just the only ones that I caught so far. This is a common mistake. You'll be thinking of another word while you say a certain word, and Joe Buck said linebacker. Don't know what a linebacker is, but I know of a linebacker. And then I'm talking maybe a play later, Troy Aikman hits us with the, Patrick Mahomes is a receiving threat. And he did not correct himself afterwards. And then you look at Troy Aikman, the exact play later, and this is within the span of like 2 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a long game. Troy Aikman then says, Patrick Mahomes likes to complete, he meant to say a high percentage throws, but he said high completion passes, which makes no sense whatsoever. How can you make a high complete pass? That terminology just doesn't resonate with me whatsoever, and I just think it's funny. I just think it's hilarious. It felt like a Booger McFarland moment. It felt like Booger McFarland was commentating the first part of this game for ESPN. I don't want Joe Buck and Troy Aikman hosting my Super Bowl. Joe Buck ruined Super Bowl 42's moment with and it's caught by David Tyree. That's it. That's all I hear from Joe Buck. I don't like Joe Buck. I don't like Joe Buck whatsoever. But let's get on to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl wasn't really anything more than we expected. Every team played how they kind of would play. We didn't get anything different. We didn't get any surprises from any of these teams' identities, besides Jason Momoa in that Super Bowl commercial where he showed his true self. That was a funny Super Bowl commercial, but other than that, everyone just looked like themselves out there. Everybody, besides Patrick Mahomes, yes, he threw 2 interceptions. It's a big game, man. So of course, a lot of jitters are gonna happen. I think Jimmy Garoppolo threw a couple of ducks. It's the jitters. Patrick Mahomes had a bad first drive. It's the jitters. Remember, these are 2 inexperienced quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. Neither one of these guys made it to a Super Bowl. Neither one of these guys had, Jimmy Garoppolo in a different sense. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo has a ring as a backup. But you guys get my gist. You guys get what I'm saying here. Patrick Mahomes has had 3 years of NFL experience. And Jimmy Garoppolo has a couple of years of NFL experience, but none of which have ever been in a game like this. There were a bunch of jitters, but at the end of the day, between a couple back and forths, nobody really knew who was going to win the game throughout most of the game, which is a good thing. I don't want to be bored in a game in a blowout like, I don't know, Super Bowl, what was that? Super Bowl 49 was Peyton Manning. No, it wasn't Super Bowl 49. I think that was 48. Correct me if I'm wrong. Seattle Seahawks and Denver Broncos. Man, that was an ugly, boring game, partly because I was rooting for the Broncos. But besides that, man, I mean, I know Jimmy Garoppolo and that offense, tried to use trick plays in the beginning of the game, and it worked. I even tweeted out on Twitter, Jimmy G and this San Francisco offense is like getting too cute with their plays. You can tell and they're barely getting by. They're barely getting by with running a sweep to Deebo Samuel. It didn't look unstoppable to me. I'm sorry, I got the hiccups. Terrible moment to get hiccups, but they did not look unstoppable at any moment. It just looked like they were getting some chunk yardage downfield that at any given moment can be stopped, and that's exactly what happened when Jimmy Garoppolo threw an interception. And, I mean, for most of this game, I kind of was expecting it, but not in that sense of, I knew who was going to win. As far as the San Francisco offense goes, I knew it was going to get stopped. They were up 20-10 at one point, but it's Kansas City. How many times has Kansas City come back just this postseason? They came back against the Titans, I believe, down 10. They came back against the Texans. It might be the biggest comeback in NFL postseason history. Well, it's like the top 3. They came back from a 24-0 deficit. I never count the Kansas City Chiefs out of the game when they got Andy Reid. Can I just talk about Andy Reid? Andy Reid was if you can give a Super Bowl MVP to a coach, it wouldn't have gone to Patrick Mahomes. He threw 2 interceptions, and we'll get to that later. It wouldn't have gone to Patrick Mahomes. It would have gone to Andy Reid. The fact that he would go for it on 2 straight drives on 4th down and make it with crazy plays. I'm talking you have the whole collective group thinking that this is a high school musical where they all spin at the same time, synchronized. They spin at the same time and automatically are in a new direction. You got the defense looking at the offense like, whoa, am I in High School Musical 4 right now? Like, these guys are dancing on the field, switching formations. What am I supposed to do? Then snap the ball. Damian Williams carries it from the Wildcat and first down. Andy Reid, listen, this is the difference between Andy Reid and a lot of other coaches, right? Andy Reid makes those risky plays, right? Andy Reid is an offensive guru. He knows what he's doing. But any coach can make a risky play. The difference is these risky plays always work. Why is that? He always puts his players in the best situation to succeed. He knows when to call these plays. He knows who to put on the field. He knows how to put all of that together. How many times, look at Bill O'Brien. Look at Bill O'Brien, how he tries to get all cute with his offense, right? It never works. Look at when he tries to get too cute with special teams. When the Texans had to try to go for it against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago in the championship game. I'm sorry, not the championship game, the divisional game. Look at that. That was the championship game, wasn't it? But anyway. Oh, no, that was a divisional. I'm sorry, divisional. But you look at Bill O'Brien. That didn't work out for him. That's the difference between Andy Reid and Bill O'Brien and other coaches like that. Andy Reid deserves the MVP for this Super Bowl. He was fantastic. And let's switch over to Andy Reid now. First of all, one of the most classiest guys out there. One of the most good-hearted people out there. He even made fun of himself. Somebody asked him, what are you going to do after the Super Bowl? What are you going to do here? You just won. He said, I'm going to go find the biggest cheeseburger I can have. And I'm paraphrasing here. I don't know exactly what he said, but he's like, I'm going to go find the biggest cheeseburger out there. And it's funny because everybody, talks about Andy Reid, how he's looking forward to the presidential dinner and stuff like that. And it's funny. And he laughs along with it. And, man, Andy Reid, no hard feelings, man. As a Giants fan, him being an Eagles coach and taking the Eagles to a Super Bowl. And I don't think Eagles fans should be upset about this either just because they won a Super Bowl before he did. But everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. I'm happy for Andy Reid. He's one of the best coaches to ever live. And I don't care how much of a rival you are. If you're good, you deserve to win. I don't think this guy is much of a rival either. But Larry Fitzgerald, Arizona Cardinals wide receiver, one of the best to ever do it in history and still going strong today. He's up there in age and he just announced that he's going to come back for another season. I really want Larry Fitzgerald to get a ring. He's one of the guys out there that I really wanted to get a ring. Andy Reid being one of them as well. Bruce Arians is another guy that comes to mind. He also had a time with Arizona as well. But, Andy Reid is one of those guys that, man, I really want him to get a Super Bowl ring with all his efforts, with all the times, including going back to the Philadelphia Eagles days where he was constantly in the NFC Championship, actually made it to a Super Bowl, lost a Super Bowl to the Patriots, comes to Kansas City, and then makes the playoffs against Andrew Luck in 2013, and Andrew Luck comes back from like a 35-0 deficit or something like that. It was insane. It was an insane score, and Andrew Luck came back from that. And then Kansas City again had their ups and downs. They always do well in the regular season, and they fall flat towards the end of the regular season into the playoffs. They fall flat. That team in 2013 started 9-0 and they finished 11-5, I believe. So, just not a lot of things went in Andy Reid's favor towards the end of these NFL seasons. So I'm happy he actually gets a Super Bowl ring. He's one of the most winningest coaches of all time. He deserves it. I'm extremely happy for him. I wanted to see him cry so I could cry, man. I just wanted to feel emotional for him. He handled it like a champ. And Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are the next dynamic duo after Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They are the next duo. Moving on, and we'll talk about Tom Brady in a second. I want to talk about Tom Brady. Moving on to Kyle Shanahan and what really went wrong here. If you ask me, just a number of things. I don't think it was a mixture of bad play calling because it's the Super Bowl, but I think a lot of people are going to say that because of Kyle Shanahan's track record, right? It's 28-3. What does Stephen A. Smith call him? Mr. 28-3. Us 28-3. As you guys know, Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons in that year, in that Super Bowl, where the Atlanta Falcons blew a 28-3 lead against the New England Patriots, and they wound up losing that game. And, look at Kyle Shanahan. This is another Super Bowl, another game in his resume, the biggest game of the year, and he falls flat, and he chokes another game away. And this is starting to pick up right where it left off for Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid, now that he has that off his shoulders, that burden is off his shoulders of, man, I actually won a Super Bowl after going to all these championship games, multiple Super Bowls. Oh, well, he only went to one Super Bowl besides this one, but, multiple opportunities, coached really good teams in the regular season, falling flat. That's going to be Kyle Shanahan moving forward. I think so. Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, deserved Coach of the Year. We'll get to that in a second. But Kyle Shanahan might be the next Andy Reid. Andy Reid, like I said, went to all these championship games, to a Super Bowl, lost it. Kyle Shanahan seems to be going right on that bandwagon. He's an extremely talented offensive mind, just like Andy Reid. Just does the craziest plays in the regular season, will coach their team to success throughout the whole regular season, and fall flat in the playoffs, in this case, 2 Super Bowls. So, that being said, I feel like Andy Reid, that weighs off his shoulders. He passed on that torch to Kyle Shanahan to be the choker in the postseason. So, that being said, I do want to move on to Tom Brady's commercial. Everybody's going off about this Tom Brady commercial. As you guys know, he did a HULU commercial for the Super Bowl. And pretty much blah, 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 right? And the black and white that he's now known for. That's what the color was with this commercial. I believe he also posted a picture in black and white as well, and everybody just went off. I don't know. He also did a Super Bowl commercial for HULU, and at the end, blah, 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 he finished it saying, and I'm not going anywhere. Now, a lot of people are up in arms about this. Oh my God, Tom Brady's coming back. Tom Brady's coming back. I think we all knew Tom Brady was coming back. He did not say he's going to be remaining with the New England Patriots. I don't know where the confusion is with everybody. Maybe I'm confused. Maybe you guys can tell me. But everybody knew Tom Brady was going to come back. He posted it in his Instagram post. He posted it in his Twitter. He has a lot left to prove, blah, 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 right? And just because he says I'm not going anywhere doesn't mean he's not leaving the Patriots. By that saying he's not going anywhere, meaning he's not leaving the NFL. If you ask me, I think Tom Brady should join the Titans or Tom Brady should join the Colts. I think the Colts need a little bit more work, but I think the Titans are the perfect team that Tom Brady could be a part of. They have an extremely good running game over there with Derrick Henry. He doesn't need to put in too much work. You look at Ryan Tannehill, how he was able to find success only throwing like 70 yards a game in the postseason. Tom Brady literally needs to do nothing. He can go out there and he can win without Bill Belichick. Kind of found a loophole, being that he has one of the most NFL ready, Super Bowl ready teams out there that he can join. But the Patriots apparently offered him over $30 million to stay with the team. I don't know how true that is, being that I thought Bill Belichick wanted to move away from Tom Brady, trying to find a successor. You look at Jarrett Stidham. He had a pretty good preseason, and he looked like he was looking on the bright side, man. He looked like he had a bright future ahead of him. Was one of the better rookie quarterbacks in the preseason. And again, it's preseason, but you could see a lot from a quarterback in the preseason. And then you look at Bill Belichick. He also wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. So that being said, we'll see what happens with Tom Brady. But the Super Bowl commercial, guys, come on. Come on, guys. We all knew he was going to come back. We just don't know if he's going to remain with the New England Patriots. That was not definitive of him saying, I'm going to be staying with the New England Patriots. He's just saying, I'm staying in the NFL. So, that being said, I want to go to the NFL honors. Now, the NFL honors, most of the time, have awards that I agree with. You look at some awards like Defensive Player of the Year, could have went to Shaq Barrett, but I think Shaq Barrett won the Deacon Jones Award. I guess that's the best edge rusher. I don't know. I don't know a bunch of these little other awards, but I know about the major ones, obviously. So Defensive Player of the Year goes to Stephon Gilmore. Offensive Player of the Year goes to Michael Thomas, the wide receiver of the New Orleans Saints, by the way, being that there's like 3 or 4 Michael Thomases in the NFL. Defensive Rookie of the Year goes to Nick Bosa. That's unanimous. If anything should be unanimous, that is unanimous. Comeback Player of the Year, Ryan Tannehill. It's kind of interesting. I don't think Ryan Tannehill did that well. I know he did a lot better than Marcus Mariota did this year, but I don't think Ryan Tannehill did have to do much. He didn't have to do anything, actually. There were a couple of games where he really did go off as far as throwing the ball around and, was finding success airing the ball out. But I don't think I think there was not that much comeback players this year, and they just had to go with Ryan Tannehill. I'm not that big of a believer in Tannehill. I don't think he's the franchise quarterback moving forward. That's just my opinion, but I'd say just give it to him. That's one of the ones I agree with. I don't completely agree with it, but I don't have another option, so I'm just going to say I agree with it. Next, we move on to these awards I do not agree with whatsoever. Let's start off. By the way, air and ground players. Lamar Jackson won the FedEx Air Player of the Year. How? I know you threw the most touchdown passes, but how? Are you kidding me? Lamar Jackson? We'll get to Lamar Jackson afterwards. I'm going to rant about Lamar Jackson. But let's go on to, let's see what I'm going to see. Lamar Jackson MVP, obviously. I agree with it. I believe he is the MVP. There's no debating. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I just think he's a great football player, and he finds his way to win, and he deserves MVP this year. Nobody can stop him. You deserve it. Respect to where it's due. But I want to talk about Offensive Rookie of the Year. AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. They gave it to Kyler Murray. I even said his damn name wrong. Kyler Murray. Why? I mean, Kyler Murray was the best. I'd say he was the best quarterback in this year's draft as far as his play. Didn't have nearly the stats as Daniel Jones did. He had less interceptions, more yards. I think he had more yards. And less touchdowns, but Daniel Jones had less games played. Daniel Jones only played 12 games and had more touchdowns than him by 6. So, by 5 or something like that. But, that being said, Kyler Murray, I'm not even going to talk about Daniel Jones. I'm not going to say Daniel Jones deserves Offensive Rookie of the Year because he doesn't. Kyler Murray, what has he done? Is he like top 10 in anything this year as far as passing categories go? I mean, was he that spectacular? I thought he had a very good quarterback season. I thought the Arizona Cardinals actually have themselves a good quarterback, and maybe him and Cliff Kingsbury really are going to get along very well. That's fine. But how on earth is Kyler Murray the Offensive Rookie of the Year when you look at what a Josh Jacobs did this year? Josh Jacobs barely played in Alabama. Everyone knew he was the best running back in the draft. He was taken by the Oakland Raiders, and he carried Oakland. He made Oakland a good team offensively. Derek Carr's been struggling. Everyone on the offensive line is all right? The offensive line was actually pretty good this year, if I'm not mistaken. Any Oakland fans, make sure you correct me. But Josh Jacobs, you look at what he did. He was definitely top 5 in rushing, top 10 in rushing this year. I don't know any of his specific stats, but he had a decent yards per carry. And he looked like a top-tier running back this year in his rookie season. Kyler Murray doesn't look like a top-tier quarterback this year. How the hell does Kyler Murray get Offensive Rookie of the Year over Josh Jacobs? Hell, even over A.J. Brown. I don't understand. Somebody has to make me understand this. Kyler Murray does not deserve Offensive Rookie of the Year. I guess it's because he's a quarterback. He has that advantage. I just think it's so skewed. I hate that. The MVP, Offensive Rookie of the Year, a lot of these offensive awards always go to the quarterback. Quarterback is the most important position in all of sports, but somehow it's still overrated. Somehow they still get overpaid. Somehow they still get all the awards. I don't think Kyler Murray did better as a quarterback this year than Josh Jacobs did as a running back. I think Josh Jacobs already has solidified himself as one of the best running backs in the NFL. Definitely should be in the conversation of top 10 going into next year. There are a lot of good backs in the league, but you could see, if you watch Oakland games, you could see the power and passion and the play that Josh Jacobs put out there. Man, he looks the part. He looks the part as a good running back. I don't know what we're gonna get from Kyler Murray yet, and I just don't understand why he got Rookie of the Year. Maybe you guys disagree with me. You guys can leave that in the comments. But I just don't agree with that, flat out and simple. And the last thing I do not agree with, that is John Harbaugh being Coach of the Year. How many minutes are we running on right now? Because I don't want to rant too long. Okay, 26 minutes. We're not too bad into this. John Harbaugh won Coach of the Year. You guys ever play Madden? Connected franchise in Madden. I'm going to try to slow it down when I talk as well, because I notice I talk too fast. I try to get so much information to you guys in such little time. I got to slow it down. You guys ever play Madden Connected Franchise? You guys go to the end of the year. You look at the awards. You got your MVP, you got your Rookie of the Year, you got your Defensive Rookie of the Year, you got all that stuff, right? And Madden has some cool features on there. Best linebacker, best defensive back, best edge rusher, things like that. They also have Coach of the Year as well. They always give it to the coach that has the best record. You know, when it comes to Madden, it really can't show other attributes that aren't measurable, you know, unlike the best record. You know, they have to go best record because there's no personality in a video game. There's no motivation. There's no, offensive guru and how smart they are and how they handle the team. All these things, all these different factors that you can't put in a video game that is actually in real life. They have to give it to the team with the best record in Madden, in the video game. But it seems like that's what they're doing this year. You look at, let's go back to 2014. No, I'm sorry, not 2014. 2016? That's when, yes, 2016, when Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott entered the NFL. And Jason Garrett, I believe, won Coach of the Year that year. And that was one of the most undeserving Coach of the Years I've ever seen in my life, being that he had a star running back. He was immediately a top two, even the best running back in the league in Ezekiel Elliott. I think he had Dak Prescott, who came out of nowhere and played extremely well for a rookie. No NFL defense had tape on him. It was by surprise that he was going to be starting. Tony Romo was slated to be the starter, but gets hurt in that preseason game against the Seattle Seahawks. I believe it was that game. He comes out for the year. Dak Prescott then takes over and plays extremely well. And Jason Garrett rides the coattails of those two rookies and wins Coach of the Year. How is that any different from what Josh Harbaugh has done? Josh Harbaugh, don't get me wrong, he's a far better coach than Jason Garrett. I want to make that very clear. I think John Harbaugh is one of the better coaches in the league. But leaving Kyle Shanahan's postseason, mishaps, for lack of a better term, in the postseason, leaving that aside, him choking the Super Bowl, he had one of the best regular seasons a coach could have. You look at last year, they were dealing with Nick Mullins. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. They still find a way to have a decent record. I don't even know if they had a decent record. But they had the number 2 overall pick. They did what they can. I think they went 4-12 or something like that. They were a lot worse than they looked. But anyway, the San Francisco 49ers were terrible last year. They had the number 2 overall pick, for crying out loud, right? And I think that was because, they had the number 2 overall pick that year. And they got Nick Bosa, obviously. And Nick Bosa is a lot to do with that Super Bowl run. But Kyle Shanahan took a team that had the number 2 overall pick to one of the worst teams in the NFL. Nobody expected San Francisco to be any running for the division. A lot of people had them as a dark horse to make the playoffs, as a wild card, but nobody really had them over the Rams. Nobody really had them over the Seattle Seahawks, and they were still, everybody, they were in the same conversation as the Arizona Cardinals, and they were still putting up numbers, putting up points. They started off hot. They almost lost to Tampa Bay. I believe they blew out Cincinnati. They blew out a bunch of teams, and everybody's like, whoa, let's take San Francisco for real now. Kyle Shanahan took that team from last year that was terrible. Took that team from last year and took them to the Super Bowl. They had the number 1 seed in the NFL. And you're telling me that he didn't win Coach of the Year? John Harbaugh literally rode the coattails of Lamar Jackson's running ability. They got 1,200 yards. Nobody could stop Lamar Jackson. And he made it, and he got Coach of the Year? What, because Lamar Jackson could run well? I don't get it. I don't get it. This is another one of these things that I don't get. Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, should be Coach of the Year. Like I said, leave the postseason behind. This is not about the postseason. It's about the regular season. What Kyle Shanahan was able to do with that San Francisco team, the San Francisco team is stacked. Don't get me wrong. But that San Francisco team is not that different. If we really look at it, is really not that different from last year. They've added Tevin Coleman. They've added... who they add? D Ford, Quan Alexander. Those are pretty prominent names, but they still have the same guys like Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, Richard Sherman was still there. That was his first year there last year. You still had Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he got hurt last year. Okay. I think Tevin Coleman was hurt all of last year, if I'm not mistaken. Or that was Jerick McKinnon. Sorry, Tevin Coleman was another addition. I think I mentioned Tevin Coleman already as well. But they still had a lot of other guys out there. Emmanuel Sanders was a late add. They still had George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the league. They had a lot of guys. And they still weren't able to put up anything. And Kyle Shanahan really brought them up this year and took them to the Super Bowl. And I know that postseason doesn't matter, but still had the San Francisco 49ers. Who the hell would have thought that San Francisco 49ers would have the number 1 seed in the NFL? Who would have thought? Not me. I was looking at the Saints. I was looking at, I know a lot of people said the Rams were overrated. I was still looking at the Rams in the beginning of the season as a possible number 1 seed. Green Bay Packers, them as well. So, that being said, it sucks, but at least Kyle Shanahan, if he won that award, at least he would have had something to go home with, right? Instead of a Lombardi Trophy, he had a Coach of the Year award. But that being said, you hate to see it. You hate to see it. So, last thing I want to talk about, guys, is as we put a lot of topics in such a short amount of time, maybe because I'm talking too much. I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. But I do want to talk about Lamar Jackson, and I'm going to rant about him once again. I did a lot of ranting about him last year. Later on in this season, towards the middle of the season, I started to give props to Lamar Jackson, that he did improve as a passer. But, guys, I want to talk to you about something. Lamar Jackson is not going to last in the NFL. Now, KB, why are you saying that? You're such a hater, man. You hate the Ravens. You hate Lamar Jackson. Why? Is it because he's African American? No. Let me talk to you guys about something. Lamar Jackson cannot throw. He can't throw. He can't throw. If anything, he should have won the ground player of the year. He cannot throw. And I know nobody wants to talk about this because it was the Pro Bowl, for crying out loud. But look at the Pro Bowl precision passing. Does any quarterback have any quarterback ever that went to the Pro Bowl and did that skills challenge, the precision passing skill challenge, has any quarterback ever sucked at that? I know there was quarterbacks that weren't great at that. They still put up points. Lamar Jackson had 2 points where he hit 2 one-pointers. Lamar Jackson threw ducks. Lamar Jackson had balls going 15 yards in the other direction from his target in that Pro Bowl. That really showed how bad of a passer he is, how unpolished he is, of how he more focuses on the run, on his running ability. You're a quarterback in the NFL. If you are as smart as you say you are, you should be able to work on your passing and be good at passing. The fact that he's still not a good passer yet, and he's been 2 years in the league, and he's been known as a running quarterback, tells me he really doesn't care that much about passing. He knows that he has the ability. This is the problem I have with running quarterbacks. A lot of people say, Kid Blue, why do you prefer pocket passers? Well, why not just have a guy that could pass and run? I would love a guy that could pass and run. You look at Russell Wilson. I would kill for a Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers, the same thing. Patrick Mahomes, right? I would never want Lamar Jackson on my team. Never. And I'm not hating on the guy. I'm really not. I think he's a fantastic football player. I think for the next 2 or 3 years, he probably will be a great football player, but he's slowly going to diminish. Teams are going to start figuring him out. It only takes a couple of guys that can set the edge, a couple of spies to really shut down Lamar Jackson. If you guys know what you're doing with stopping the run, if you look at one of the better, let's have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay had one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL. Give them a shot at Lamar Jackson. Let's see what he does. Let's see what he does against them. It only takes a couple of guys to stop a running quarterback. Okay? Where was I going with this? Lamar Jackson, the fact that he has not improved in his passing game yet worries me as far as his longevity in the NFL. If he can't pass, if he still cannot pass the ball, yes, he led the NFL in touchdowns. Listen, that's because of dink and dunk passes. Look at all of his touchdown passes. They're not like long, deep balls. They're not throws in tight coverage. He has a couple of sidearm throws. It's fine. But he's a dink and dunker. And his guys get open, and he hits open guys. He uses the play action to his advantage. He's a running quarterback, of course. He's going to get some touchdown passes. He's going to get some yards. Because of the play action, things like that. But if you look at his pure ability to throw the ball, he cannot throw every route. He doesn't have a great deep ball. You look at his highlights, they're all running plays, but 3 passes. And let's go back to what I was talking about. A lot of people always say, Kid Blue, why don't you like running quarterbacks? Well, I'll tell you why I don't like running quarterbacks. Because they rely too much on their running ability. I don't want a quarterback that's going to drop back to throw and sees a guy, maybe a wide receiver running a crossing pattern. He's waiting for that linebacker who's reading the crossing pattern but staying in his zone. Instead of waiting for that route to open up that can be good for 20 yards and more, he's going to run the ball and get 8 yards, maybe get the first down but get 8 yards. And that's how he makes his decisions. A guy that's going to drop back under any bit of pressure, tuck it, and run. Not only do you not help your team move down the field with better chunk plays, and you're getting your first downs, but not with a lot of yards. Not only that, you're making yourself one-dimensional, and you're shortening your longevity in the NFL. The amount of hits you could take a lot of dives and all these slides. How many times do you see Carson Wentz, for example? He dove and got slammed by Jadeveon Clowney. How many times do you see quarterbacks get hurt even while they're sliding? It happens all the time. Lamar Jackson's longevity in the NFL will either come to an end from an injury, God forbid, okay? Will either come to an end by injury or come to an end by teams figuring him out and stopping his ability to run and forcing him to throw and him becoming another freaking Blake Bortles, because that's exactly what I'm going to see. People like to compare him to Michael Vick. Michael Vick, out the gate, was a better passer than Lamar Jackson, because that's just who Michael Vick was. He was a better passer. Now, he wasn't a fantastic passer with the Atlanta Falcons, and he definitely got a lot better with Philadelphia, Michael Vick. But you look at Lamar Jackson, he is leagues behind Michael Vick as a complete quarterback. Lamar Jackson has better athleticism than Michael Vick, and that's hard to say. That is hard to say. But I think Lamar Jackson up against Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson's just harder to stop on the ground. I'll say that without a doubt. Lamar Jackson is a legend on the ground. But his longevity as a quarterback is not going to last. He could keep saying all these jokes. He could keep mocking everybody that calls him a running back. I don't call him a running back. I was one of the guys when he was drafted. Before he was drafted, a lot of people were saying, test him out at wide receiver. Test him out at wide receiver. You guys never seen him run a route, and you guys want to test him at wide receiver. Why? Because he's fast and black? Like, come on, man. I was rooting for Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. I didn't want him as a quarterback, but I was rooting for Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. I don't think he's a running back. That's fine. But he should not mock the people who are calling him a running back, because he looks more like a running back than he does a quarterback. He's just a running back in the Wildcat formation. I just call him a running back. I'm sorry, he's not a running back. He is a quarterback, but he acts as if he's a running back in the Wildcat formation, taking a direct snap and running it. That's pretty much all he does. Any bit of pressure, he's going to run it because why? He's confident in his running ability. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I have a quarterback, I want him to throw before he runs. Look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, with all the athleticism that he has, can 10 times out of 10 take the ball, run outside the pocket, roll out, fake the pass, and run for yardage. He can do that all the time. He decides not to because he likes to throw the ball deep downfield. How many times have you seen Russell Wilson come off a bootleg rollout and he has room to run and get the first down, but he waits, he finds the opportunity and hits a deep ball downfield, perfectly placed for a touchdown? How many times have we seen that from Russell Wilson? That's what makes Russell Wilson great. Lamar Jackson does not have that instinct. Lamar Jackson does not have that skill. Lamar Jackson does not have that ability. That's what differentiates himself from a Russell Wilson, from a Patrick Mahomes, from, hell, even a Deshaun Watson. I take Deshaun Watson over Lamar Jackson. Deshaun Watson is a beast, throwing the ball and passing the ball. Throwing the ball. Yeah, I just sounded like Troy Aikman for a second. Throwing the ball, and running the ball. So, that being said, Lamar Jackson has a lot to work on. That's without a doubt. So, guys, that concludes episode 2 of UDA, the Undrafted Analyst. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, or if you guys are listening on any other platform, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, KidBlueRB27. It may be coming to a name change soon, but we'll see what happens. But if you guys enjoy it, make sure you guys leave a like, tell your friends about it, share it, and don't know how to end this because I'm not going to use my outro, so just make sure you guys watch the next one, I guess, and go Giants. All right, guys, see you guys in the next podcast.